Hello everybody and welcome to Forever Sports and some Springbok news on a Sunday. Rassie Erasmus has called for aid as expected. He mentioned during the week that he was looking to call up a hooker and a prop into the squad, and it has been confirmed that Bongi, Mbonambi and Ntuthuko will officially fly out and join the squad in Ireland to try and add a little bit to the Bok depth that we have within the camp. What's very interesting though is that we've decided not to call up a lock despite the fact that we've lost two number fives in the last 2 weeks with the red card to Louis Diaga and the red card to Franco Master, which I can guarantee the Boks will look at appealing. I think that there's so much evidence the fact that it wasn't a red card, and we need to have options. Whether he even makes the squad, for example, for that final test, or for the test against Ireland and the final test against Wales is not the point. The fact is that at the moment, whilst we might be able to cope without them right now, if Ruben Okia, for example, goes down in the warm-ups, on Saturday afternoon or gets injured on Friday, all of a sudden you're without an option at five, and you have to basically rejig the entire way that the Boks are, setting up the team and the likes of that. But let's get into the players that are joining them, because here they are. And it's the right decision, I think, to bring in a hooker as well as a prop. Obviously, losing Oxen Chair was a big blow. And we've been a bit short of a hooker since losing our entry vessel. We opted not to replace him. And Bongi Mbonambi was always on the standby list, and he has been the one that has been called up. And I think the main reason is the fact that going into that test against Wales, we're not going to have Thomas Ntuthuko, we're not going to have Bone Fenter, and we probably need another hooker if there's any other issues over there. So the press release was issued earlier, and they said that they were joining the squad in Ireland. Speaking about it, Rassie Erasmus said, this is a longer tour than usual, and we have two big matches lined up against Ireland and Wales, which prompted the decision to call up Bongi and Ntuthuko. He said both players have done the job for us on the international stage, so we are excited to have them in the group. He said several players will not be eligible for selection for the final test on tour against Wales, as the match falls outside of the international window, so it makes sense to call up the players now to get back into the swing of things with us training this week, while at the same time increasing the depth we have within the squad for our next challenge against Ireland. They will travel from Italy to Dublin on Sunday afternoon, and they will get back on the pitch tomorrow. And it's the right cause, because I said, in terms of hooker, we don't have a third choice at the moment. We've got Marco van Staden, and they try, but didn't really get to use that experiment given the red card issue that we had over the weekend. We had to really rejig things yesterday with regards to how we used the side, the bench, how we rejig things, how we sort of made players sort of play in different roles. So if Johan Kobler, for example, goes down this week, I don't think they've got the full confidence to go Marco van Staden as the hooker option. Same with Malcolm Marx, for example, but probably even more worried if Malcolm Marx goes down in training for whatever reason. I think Bongi Mbonambi will come in, to be honest. It's such a big game for the Boks next week, Saturday. It's the biggest game for us left this year. It's arguably one of the biggest games for us of the entire year. There are three big matches. We lost the one at Eden Park Test, I think was one of the big ones. Then, France, Stade de France, Ireland, and Dublin. Those were the three matches that we really wanted to win. I mean, Wellington, to a lesser extent for me, obviously you wanted to try and break the Eden Park curse. Didn't manage to do it. But beating France in France was very important. And now, we go and beat Ireland. First of all, we will cement our spot at top of the world rankings. And we get a little bit of a grudge match gone. And then I think we're going to see Ntuthuko obviously against Wales. Because as I said, we're going to lose Bone Fenter. We're going to lose Thomas Ntuthuko, which means that we only really have one lose-head option in the form of Gerard Stennekamp. So I'm expecting to see Ntuthuko start, actually, potentially against Wales. Or at the very least, he'll be on the bench. You'll probably then have, him and Gerard Stennekamp. You'll have Wilco Low and then Asnat Tlabakanye or Zach Porthen, whichever one you want to go with up against Wales. And it also means that if there are any injuries, for example, we can cope as well. So it's the right decision to bring these two in. Now, I think these two have got big opportunities here, and for very different reasons. Bongi Mbonambi, while he needs to prove that he can still do the business, he's not had the best, probably his worst year in a Springbok jersey, if we're going to be brutally honest. And he's not been playing at the kind of level that we saw during the 2023 World Cup. He is also not got age on his side. He's not old, for example. He's definitely not sitting there going, oh no, he's definitely not old enough. He's not young enough to make the next World Cup. He definitely can. But with the form and the way he's playing at the moment, I think there are question marks over whether he will make the next World Cup from a form point of view. Jan-Hendrik Wessels has gotten ahead of him in the pecking order. Arguably now Jens Krobler seems to be ahead of him in the pecking order. There's an argument that Marnus van der Merwe is potentially ahead of him in the pecking order. And he turns 35 in January, so he'll be 36 the next World Cup. As I said, so from an age point of view, he's still fine in that bracket, but given his age, given the fact that there's a drop-off in performance, that is why we have looked at other options. That is why he's not played a massive part of the team this year, and he hasn't got the opportunities, which means that he's not got probably one game, I'd imagine, against Wales, to bring the Bongi and Mbonambi of old, the top dog that we used to call him, and bring back that kind of form that made him seem as if he was one of the best hookers in the world, because he's been there before. And we've always had such ridiculous depth between him and Malcolm Marx that there was never really a drop-off. Now Malcolm Marx still playing, I mean, probably the best hooker in the world at the moment. This guy needs to get back to his best. And then in terms of Ntuthuko, well, it's a good opportunity for him. You know, he's kind of fallen by the wayside due to injuries. And we talk about timing of injuries. Bowen Fenter, for example, was not in the Springbok frame. He's had 6 caps this year. Those 6 caps probably would have gone to Ntuthuko had he been fit and ready to fire. Now he gets to the call up. He's highly rated by Rassie Erasmus. I think they do rate him, and you can see why. I mean, big, very athletic prop, much more in the new mold. You know, similar to a Zach Porthen, similar to a Jan Vessels. He's very mobile, quick player around the park, good in the loose. Scrummaging is probably the big thing he's sort of tick off, but he's a nice young player. He's 26 years old, so he's got plenty of time to really get to the top of the game in World Rugby. But at the same time, he's 26. We're waiting for him now to be there. You know, he was capped relatively young, and very lots of excitement about him. But now we want him to wait to kick on, you know, and show us all what he's all about. I do think that the move that he's made to the Stormers is a good one. I think I'm hoping he's going to get a lot of game time there and going to really grow and potentially create a partnership with a Zach Porthen, for example. You know, he's obviously going to have a Ntuthuko Bashir around there and learn off players like Frans Malherbe. So I think it's a good move for him. But now he's going to get an opportunity to try and remind the Boks coaching staff that he's still around. I'm still here. That's the big thing I think a lot of these players are saying, are trying to say when they get their opportunities. I'm still here. And that's where, you know, Ntuthuko, for example, he's very much on the fringes right now. He needs to try and put himself back in the mix. Bongi Mbonambi is almost in the kind of category of being phased out. He needs to throw himself back in the mix and show that these are players who are part of the conversation for 2027. They need to be shown that they're part of the conversation for next year. You know, Greatest Rugby Tour, they want to be in that squad. They don't want to be involved. They want to be playing. And this is a small opportunity for them just to remind the Boks coaching staff, remind the fans that they're still at this sort of level. So I don't think we'll see them against Ireland. Maybe if there's injuries, but I do think we'll see both of them against Wales and a big opportunity for them. I worry about our lack of depth at 5. We obviously got Peter Steph, the toy, who can swap back in the number 5 jersey if we need to. We don't have a lot of 7 options, though, because you got Franklin Mossad, who, you know, could have played, obviously, 5 and 7. He's not potentially not going to be available. So that is, for me, a bit of a position of worry. What do you think? Let me know down in the comments below. Smash a like on the video. Subscribe to the channel as well. Thank you very much for watching. My name is Steve. I'll chat to you soon.